Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my epic rant on the 2012 film Fateful Findings, which is yet another disaster piece of epic proportions from wannabe auteur Neil Breen. Now, out of all of the Neil Breen films that I've seen, I would probably say this is the closest to being so bad it's good, but it's still awful. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, I would like to give a special shout out to Thomas for yet again requesting another review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Fateful Findings is yet again directed by Neil Breen, who probably did craft services for this movie too, and a whole bunch of other jobs because he thinks that he's the man of many trades and many talents when he's a master of none. And his direction here is still bad, but I will give him some credit. It seems like he improved a little bit from what he did in I Am Here Now. It definitely does seem like he learned some lessons, as in, this isn't 100% incompetent from a directing standpoint, because there aren't multiple scenes where people are talking and there's no audio. And I do feel he's gotten better at framing his shots. Even like the opening shot, which is like a tracking shot inside of what looks like a storage unit, is not that bad. So there's a couple shots in this where it seems like he's starting to kind of get some semblance of an idea of how to properly direct a film. But it's very fleeting and not very common because the majority of the time it's still really bad directing. In terms of the framing of the shots, how he's utilizing pans or zooms or any sort of different sort of camera angle. There's a lot of moments where scenes just go on way too long than they ever really should, because he doesn't know how to direct films very well. So he'll just have the camera linger on stuff for what feels like an ungodly, unbearable amount of time more than once throughout the film. And there's not really a lot of skill that's on display here in terms of the direction. This isn't one of those things where you're like, oh, he's really showing significant improvement. He's just improved to the point where it looks like he has at least a base understanding of how to direct a movie now, where before it didn't seem like he knew what the hell he was doing at all. So it's still an incredibly low bar to get over, and just because he managed to do it doesn't mean that this is good directing. It's really bad. It's pretty pathetic all across the board. As pathetic and as incompetent as Neil Breen's direction is for this film, the script is so much worse. This has a story, which, in all honesty, I don't even think you can call it a story because it's completely incomprehensible. Is full of dialogue that might as well have been written by an alien from outer space trying to imitate or come up with their idea of what human interaction is. And there's tonal shifts all over the place. There is multiple different genres that the story is trying to attempt to be. It's a fucking mess. But it's the kind of mess that ultimately becomes this giant train wreck that's hard to look away from, and at points it turns into something that is legitimately entertaining because of just how batshit insane and bad it is. So it starts off with a couple 8-year-olds, Dylan and Leah. And Dylan and Leah, they go into the woods and they find a mushroom, which might as well be the same mushroom that Neil Breen smoked or ate to write this script and to act and edit and do everything else involved with this movie. Because all of a sudden, the mushroom, for no reason other than just random magic, just turns into a box. Inside the box is a black stone, and Dylan takes it, and then Leah's like, "Hey, you can't take something and then not put something back." And then there happens to be a bunch of random gems that are now on the forest floor that just appeared out of nowhere. They just fell from the sky. And Leah takes them and then puts them in the box. And then Dylan and Leah bury the box. And then there's narration that explains that Dylan had a fun time with Leah, but then he never saw her again, which is bullshit if you've seen this movie, because he sees Leah again later. So why did you have that bit of narration there? It doesn't make any sense within the context of whatever this attempt of a story is that you tried to write. Decades then pass. Dylan is now a successful novelist, which is the only way that Neil Breen can ever put successful and novelist in the same sentence when it comes to anything regarding himself or his talents. And Dylan winds up getting struck by a car. He then winds up in the hospital, but because of the magic black stone, he winds up being healed to the point where he can walk. And so he just decides to get up and leave the hospital, goes back to his house where he has shower sex with his wife, Emily, while he's wearing the bandage and he's bleeding. When that scene came up, I had to laugh and I was like, holy shit. Man, this Darkman sequel really took a crazy turn. I mean, what the fuck? Seriously? Yeah, that's exactly what you do. That's the procedure, folks. When you heal from injuries and you leave the hospital, you just go right into the shower and bang your wife while you're bleeding down the drain. That's just how it is. And there's a lot of drama involving Dylan and his wife Emily, because Emily is understandably tired of his fucking shit, but she has her own problems because she's addicted to pills. But it also seems like Dylan also has his own pill problems, and there's a whole scene where Dylan is mad at his wife about his pills. This is how bad this script is. And Dylan is like, "Where are my pills? Where are my pills?" And then Emily's like, "I'll get them for you." And then Emily's like, "I've got your pills. Here they are." And then Dylan's like, "Thank you. I don't need these. I'm not going to take these anymore." And I'm like, you just asked for the pills. Like, were you on pills? He was on pills and shrooms. That totally explains how bad this script is and how bad this movie is. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, come on, man. Where are my pills? Here's your pills. I don't need these. Come on. And so Dylan upsets his wife even more because he reveals that he's no longer writing his book, and instead he's hacking into government systems to reveal the corruption. And he is planning to publish all of that in an expose. And because of all of that, his wife is just even more fed up, and eventually she winds up having an overdose of pills. It doesn't help either that there's this really creepy sexual attention that's being paid to Dylan by his best friend Jim's underage daughter, which I don't even know why the hell that's even in the script. It's just pretty skeevy, and I really don't get it. I don't know why it's there. There's also a lot of stuff involving Jim and his wife and their own marital problems with such amazing dialogue like this. We haven't had sex in a while. Do you realize that? And then his wife cannot stand Jim being into his car because he has a Ferrari and he's really into his car. His wife can't handle it. So then one day she winds up shooting at the car. It's like, I've had it. I've had enough. I'm going to shoot that thing full of holes. And then she winds up shooting her husband. And then instead of just being like, oh, it was an accident. Oh, I'm sorry. Or, coming clean, she tries to make it I didn't even try to make it look like a suicide, except other than putting the gun down there. Her daughter shows up though pretty soon afterwards and knows that it's not a suicide, and she's trying to get to her dad, and the mom is holding her daughter back, and the daughter's like, "No, no, daddy, daddy, no, daddy, no, no, daddy, no, dad, no, dad." And that's when you get even more legendarily just awful dialogue from Dylan and from Neil Breen, where he shows up later, he's cradling Jim's dead body, and he's all like, I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide? And then, like, he continues, like, because there's another bit where he's talking to Jim, after, he's trying to put pressure on the wound. And he's like, I can't help you out of this one, Jim. With all that we've been through, I can't pull you out of this one. Goodbye, my friend. Goodbye. I mean, you're supposed to think that they're friends, but it never really registers that way. It just seems like this guy's just some neighbor of Dylan's that he barely even knows. So it makes this whole scene even funnier. Like, man, this is a really depressing episode of According to Jim. um, but yeah, there's a lot of suicide in this. I've noticed, or attempts, or just deaths of random people that are a part of Dylan's life. And then Dylan starts having these weird dreams where he's literally inside of a bunch of trash bags. I'm like, I hope that didn't break the bank for the budget, Neil, getting that bulk bag of hefty bags for that scene. It literally is trash bags that he just glues together or tapes together on a wall. And then of course Neil Breen has to be naked for some reason in those scenes too. I have no idea why. And so he's having these weird dreams about this book, and he's inside a trash bag. And that's definitely where this film belongs, along with the rest of Neil Breen's filmography, right in the fucking trash. And he starts seeing a psychologist who then, in a twist later, is not real. He reveals these childhood memories. The doctor uh is somebody that he winds up realizing is an adult Leah. He has a really awkward pool party, and this is when his wife was still alive. And his wife was still alive while he winds up cheating on her with this adult Leah. And I'm like, you're just an asshole. And so he cheats on her. His wife later winds up killing herself. He gets these random psychic powers, and that enables him to save Leah, because Leah gets kidnapped by some mysterious assailant. And also, while this actually before all of this, the whole genre of the film then shifts to like a ghost movie for some reason. There's now some mysterious presence out of a Poltergeist sequel that's showing up and floating around the room and makes the walls shake. And I'm like, what? What in the fuck is this? Why is it now a ghost movie? So it's a movie about exposing corruption and hacking into government secrets. And then a film about mystical rocks. And now it's a ghost movie. What the hell? And the ghost aspect is never explained because it just all of a sudden it's just gone. You never see anything about the ghost ever again. And this mysterious assailant, he kidnaps Aaliyah. You find he's working for, the people who are trying to prevent him from exposing the secrets. Dylan winds up rescuing her by, I guess, becoming Nightcrawler and teleports into the place where the kidnapper is keeping Leah. And there's a whole scene where he is talking to Leah, and the way that it's directed, the way that it's written, everything about this particular scene has the wrong tone. It honestly makes it look like Dylan is the kidnapper and it's not this other random guy where he's talking to Leah and he's like, "We're going to get out of here right now, but I need to put the blindfold back on. Trust me. Trust me. I'm going to do something that you can't see. I'm going to put the blindfold back on. Trust me. We're going to get out of here. But if you can't see you can't see what's about to happen. I'm going to put the gag back in. Please be very quiet." I'm like, Neil Breen, you are so high on shrooms and pills, like you can't even see that this dialogue is just completely inappropriate for the tone of the scene. It makes you look like you're a creep, and that's what his character is. His character is a creep, despite all the good work he's doing, hacking into the government secrets, or and exposing the most secret government and corporate secrets and all that shit. He travels to a desert. Of course he does. Neil Breen has a thing for deserts for some reason. And he winds up finding the book that he sees in his dream there. And then the psychologist that he was going to and looking to for help. She's a ghost and disappears. He then publishes his book. He hosts a press conference, which I find is funny because he gets mad at his publisher in one scene that is really just it's really absurd and ridiculous, where he gets just completely pissed off at his publisher about them trying to ask him to do another book, and he's just like, "Hello? I'm working. I'm very busy. What deadline? No, I'm not. You know what? After giving it some thought, I'm not going to sign the book deal with you. No, I'm not signing the contract. I'm under no obligation to sign with you. None." And then just throws papers. He has a thing for throwing papers too, as well as, having like a bunch of non functional laptops lying around. "You never gave me a retainer. I never asked for one. I am not obliged to sign any contract with you. I don't owe you any book. No book. That first book made a fortune for you." And then he just throws a book at a laptop. "And I don't owe you anything. In fact, I'm not going to give you the next book. That's it. Don't call here anymore. No more damn books." Throws another book. "No more books." But I guess he didn't really follow his own advice because he still writes another book and then publishes it. And then you have this just mind-blowingly poor usage of tone here where all of the sudden you have all these different people who were in Congress and different corporate executive positions, and they start reacting to this speech that Dylan is making by killing themselves in various different ways. And like he's not even really saying anything in any kind of detail. He's just saying they're corrupt and they were involved in payoffs. And then you have all of these people who were a part of like corporate America, like CEOs and bankers. You know, this one guy who was all like, I resigned today as the president of the bank. Like, not even a president of a specific bank, just the bank. And you got all these CEOs and shit, and they're all just acting in just the most ridiculous way. They would never act this way. Money, payoffs, and greed were always the priority of my company, like many companies. I'm afraid of going to prison. They know now my crimes. And then he shoots himself. I was like, I was absolutely just completely aghast and speechless when it comes to this ending. I was like, what? Then there's a random assailant, like an assassin who's trying to take out Dylan, and then he gets taken out by somebody. I guess it's by Dylan, who reflected the bullet using his psychic powers, but either the effect was so shitty I couldn't tell, or he was killed by editing. And then because his mission is now complete, Dylan and Leah then return to the place where they found the stone in the woods, and then the movie is over. But there's also the weird ghost mist that's also there following them. So I guess maybe it's not over. Maybe it's going to possess them later and turn them into mushrooms, and the cycle will then be fully complete. I mean, knowing Neil Breen, that's not really that far off. Um, yeah, what in the hell was this? There wasn't much of a plot. There's no reason to care about any of these characters. There's no reason to care about whether or not he hacks into these government systems and publishes this book to expose everybody. It's just a really awkward and just strange as hell look into the mind of somebody who I genuinely feel is not all there. Like, this is the kind of movie you watch and then you're like, is Neil Breen okay? Because it almost seems like, I don't need any pills. I'm good. I'm not going to take any more pills. Maybe you should take some pills for whatever psychosis you're going through right now, dude. Instead of writing scripts and making these movies. But yeah, it did create some so bad it's good laughs, but I found it still for the most part really boring. Not as boring as I am here now, but still rather dull because of the reasons that I mentioned. Yeah, I can laugh at some scenes, but there's not much of a plot. There's not really much of a reason to care about any of the characters. So it becomes quite a difficult film to sit through. I think the name of the film festival it initially debuted at, called the Butt-Numb-a-thon. I think that's rather accurate to describe this movie. It'll definitely numb your butt as well as your brain. And the acting is honestly some of the worst acting I've ever seen in my entire life. Neil Breen, once again, cannot act at all in any capacity. And the rest of the cast is not any better. Jennifer Autry is Leah, Klara Landrat is Emily, Danielle Andrade is Allie, Victoria Viverios is Amy, David Silva is Jim. Especially not Klara Landrat as Emily. Like, she was every bit as awful and atrocious as Neil Breen was in this when it comes to her acting. And what can I really say about the cinematography? Like, what cinematography? Gonna make sure to shoot that plate of spinach properly so it's in focus. That's what it seemed like most of the time. Is like, need to just make sure that this one shot is in focus, and there's your cinematography. It's edited by Brian Mills and Neil Breen. The editing is excruciatingly egregious on pretty much every possible level. There's numerous moments where you're like, wait a second, what in the hell was that? Why did you cut from that scene to this scene? Why is this edited this way? Doesn't make any sense. And the music by Neil Breen, once again, the same very generic sounding music that sounds like something you would just find on Creative Commons on YouTube for free. And the visual effects of what you can actually constitute as such are just awful, ineffective, and just really cheap. And it's 100 minutes, and it really does feel every bit as long as that runtime suggests. You can only get so far when it comes to the bad acting and some of the more incredulous, over the top, uh, just unexpectedly ridiculous and silly moments in the movie. Because there's a lot of stuff that is just really bad and boring when it comes to the overall script and the and the film itself. It's not a magical day or a magical time or a place where dreams come true if you decide to sit down and watch Fateful Findings. It really is not. Um, but yeah, I really don't know what else to say about the film except thanks for watching my rant. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.